was all done from the point of view of someone that cares about the game, wants the game to be better, and I think he did a great job with that. Shout out to Kusikage. What's good, guys? It's your boy CJ, and today we're gonna take a look at an ARKNIGHTS ENFIELD review that a lot of people have been saying it's quite good. It's actually pretty damn good. And this is from an OG ARKNIGHTS player, someone that not only plays the actual ARKNIGHTS game, but actually cares for the lore and the game overall, right? We're going to be taking a look at Kukikaze's review of the 1.0 update, and we will be taking a look at his 1.1 update review when it drops, and I will give you my own 1.1 review. This one is a scathing review of Enfield's version 1.0. Let's go ahead and see what he's cooking. I got some food, so we're going to be reacting, so let's go ahead and see what he has to say.
Let me start the video with mad heat. Okay, I'm just going to tell you my straight up opinion of ARKNIGHTS ENFIELD, and that is, I don't like ARKNIGHTS ENFIELD. Well, doesn't mean that I dislike ARKNIGHTS ENFIELD. It's more so that, sit in the shoes of me, alright, as an ARKNIGHTS player who is someone who really loves ARKNIGHTS, right? You can call
It's starting off heat already. It's starting up hot right there. He doesn't like it, but that doesn't mean he hates it, right? So I'm interested to see what he has to say, because it's the same with me with a lot of these games, bro. It's like love-hate relationships. There's a lot of things you like about the game, and there's a lot of things you won't like about it. So let's continue.
me what biggest ARKNIGHTS hypergrifter, okay? But when it comes to looking at ARKNIGHTS ENFIELD as someone who's transitioning the two games, I want to be able to tell people that Hypergriff is a fantastic company, that ARKNIGHTS is a great game, and therefore Enfield is going to do the same. But there's just so many things that Enfield just didn't seem to learn from the development of ARKNIGHTS. It's true, there can be people who's falling off of the game right now, they've realized the game is not for them, they think the game is boring, and there's even ARKNIGHTS players who's out there telling people that this game is disappointing, I was once an AK player and Enfield just doesn't hit the mark for me. And oftentimes when they compare AK to Enfield, they'll
I'm gonna be real. I think that comparing ARKNIGHTS, the original game, to ARKNIGHTS Enfield is a very different type of game, right? You have the tower defense gameplay that you have in OG ARKNIGHTS and everything they got going on over here to this completely different graphically looking and presenting game, right? Like, I think it's a very different situation. I would compare them more to the likes of like Wuthering Waves, Genshin Impact, Tower Fantasy, Duet and Abyss, those types of games that look and play similarly. So as a, like, if you're an OG ARKNIGHTS player, you would never recommend to play ARKNIGHTS Enfield, right? You might say, oh, you're an ARKNIGHTS player, you like the lore, blah, blah, blah. Maybe check out ARKNIGHTS Enfield, but even then, like, it's such a completely different game in that regard that I don't disagree, and I kind of see where some people that like ARKNIGHTS would not like ARKNIGHTS Enfield.
saying that AK is a fantastic game right now and Enfield just don't hold a candle. But they are usually comparing to the current state of ARKNIGHTS being the 2026 6-7 years version of the game. I'm sorry I said that number, but it really is what it is. Nonetheless though, the starting of ARKNIGHTS in year 1 and year 2, those were the times where a lot of you who play AK aren't actually here, and you guys only joined much later. As someone who's played AK in that starting phase, I feel like history in itself is repeating, where the starting part of Enfield has the exact same problems and troubles that AK had in year 1. Let me get this straight early in the video as well. Enfield is definitely in the same genre as Genshin Impact and Wuthering Waves, the 3D semi-open world RPG type of game, and if they choose to do that, I totally don't mind. But in order for me to respect that sort of choice, I really want them to be a different feeling of a game. Something that really feels like its own. Which, I'm not saying that Enfield is not different right now. Yes, the factory is a very unique thing that definitely don't appear in other games. It's a different way of getting the materials.
I'm going to stop him right here. And I'm going to say this. Even though there's a lot of similarities between games like, well, ARKNIGHTS Enfield, Wuthering Waves, Genshin Impact, even though there's a lot of similarities, when I've played ARKNIGHTS Enfield, I've already felt that it has played in a very different manner than these other games. Now, I'm not saying it's like polar opposites or extremely different, but I've already felt that I'm playing a different type of game within that same type of genre. For example, the basic, the factory. We won't even go deep into that. We know the factory. But there's more to it, right? The exploration and platforming in Arknights Enfield is instantly so much different than the platforming in, for example, Withering Waves and Genshin, right? You don't have the ability to run up walls or fly. You don't have those abilities. So every single area, you're finding ways to get around the map. You're unlocking like doors that now give you shortcuts as you explore the map. And all of those things have been pretty damn good. I don't really have that feeling of like exploration and platforming in game in just the general map in games like Wuwa or Genshin. At least not in 1.0, right? Or even 1.1. I just didn't have those feelings. And that alone sets it apart. When it comes to other things, right? The end game, or at least the events that we have right now, the activities that we have right now, not having like 2-3 minute timers on them allow people to beat the content with teams that they want, even characters that they want, even on like trying out a single like 5-star 6-star character, whatever it might be, 4-star characters, and beating content at their own pace with how they want to play. That's also been pretty good, because usually you have this timer, DPS check, all of that. So I've personally enjoyed that, right? I thought it was pretty cool. We have the ship, right? Even though some people find the ship annoying, having the ship where you can like plan things, put your operators to work and get extra resources every day has also been really good. So on those type of activities, I already feel that I do feel different when I'm playing this game as opposed to like Wuwa or Genshin. Not saying that this one is better, just saying that it already stands out as a little bit of a different experience to these other titles.
The gear that you want for your units. And there is also the combat, which if you actually delve into the intricacies of all the stuff, you'll realize that it's so different in the way that you think, in the way that combat flows.
Yeah.
So those things I don't think are enough for me to say that Enfield is a really different and high impact of a game. So this is what I want to cover during this video. There are three main problems, alright? Gacha, difficulty, and replayability. But before I talk...
Absolutely. Okay. First off, the gacha is a problem. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later. Difficulty, it's a gacha game. Most gacha games are easy as shit. There's like no difficulty whatsoever, because if they add difficulty, usually gacha players just, they're bad. Or they would have to scale it up to having dupes on your character, which usually would make the game pay to win. And replayability, bro, most gacha games within the same genre of Arknights Enfield have zero replayability. Bro, you beat a new area, you get the resources for a character, you usually never go back to that area. When was the last time players went back to like 1.1 in Withering Waves, unless they needed a material or something? Like, just to go there and do something. Never. Same with, like, Genshin. 1.1, the Icy Mountain area. You usually never go back to these areas or redo events you've already finished or gotten their rewards for. But maybe he's going to talk about something else regarding replayability. Let's go ahead and see.
About them, I know some people will be saying, wait, there's so many other problems, and I totally agree. Those are not problems that I want to focus on in this video, because the only solution I can propose is do better hyperglyph. They can only fix it in the future patches, because these problems are confined to 1.0. The main two things being weak, unappealing storytelling or way too much tutorials. Even if they were to revamp it, all of us have sat through the experience. We're not going to re-sit through that kind of thing. So
yeah, the storytelling in 1.0 was very like, I don't want to say superficial, but it was like emotionless, bro. There was no depth to it. It kind of felt like you were just doing side quests the whole time. And then the tutorials, I'm gonna be real, They were annoying at the beginning, but then I skipped all of the factory tutorials. And by the time they added the feature that if you had already put down factory stuff, it auto completed your tutorials, that's when I did all of the factory tutorials. I just clicked pretty much claim everything. I didn't do all of those tutorials. That was AIDS.
All that can happen now is give us much better patches that are memorable. One last note before the meat of the video, that is, some of you might be asking me, wait, you're suddenly all like wanting to spill the beans on the bad stuff of this game. Why didn't you just do it earlier during beta test 2, where all the people were, doing all the kind of reviews that they did? The thing is, I didn't find any glaring issues with beta test 2 because I think the core gameplay of Enfield is fine. It's fun to do the factory, it's fun of a combat. But the story part, yes, I feedback that it was pretty weak, and it turns out they didn't change anything. I was actually very surprised because I got to play beta test 2, I was invited, and I'm very grateful for it. But I got a shock of my life when I found out that the launch patch of 1.0, 80 to 90% of the content is the exact same as beta test 2, which I...
Okay, this is someone that hasn't played the betas. I haven't played the beta, so I don't know what was going on there. But like he said, during beta test 2, he was finding the game to be great. He was having fun. Everything, the core aspect of it, the core combat and everything was great. I personally agree. I like the combat of the game when you get to it. Rotations, combos. Some people like to say that ARKNIGHTS Enfield combat is just holding down basic attack, right? Because you auto attack with your characters. People seem to think that that is the actual combat. They actively tell you that's 90% of the combat in ARKNIGHTS Enfield. Just holding down basic attack. Those are the people that don't play the game. And those are the people that either don't play the game or are whales and just power through everything, because you're not going to tell me you're just clearing all the content by just literally holding basic attack and not doing anything. No rotations, no combos, no nothing. Once you get into actually doing your rotations, combos, setting up, things like that, it's really damn good. And honestly, the story, bro, if I go back and look at like the story from most gacha games like this, their 1.0 story is kind of like lackluster. That's not to excuse that ARKNIGHTS Enfield story was lackluster. It should have been better. You get better as you go. Newer games should do better. But it wasn't that big of a deal. It didn't impact my enjoyment of the game, at least, right?
I just think, isn't it very weird of a strategy that Hypergraph chose to take? Because it's almost like you reviewed your full hand, and then everybody who got excited of the game, the streamers or the people watching those streamers, are experiencing it all, and then when they actually play the game for themselves, they realize, wait, there's no new other additions. I don't know, strange little rant that I have to go on about, but really, I didn't have issues with beta test 2. The issues that I was looking out for is all going to come when the launch patch happened and all the subsequent updates. I was worried about the content cycle of the game, and now that we're starting to see it, I really need to address it. So let's start. First thing to talk about in this game, difficulty, which I know some of you wanted to hear gacha first. Gacha is going to be last, okay? There is kind of nowhere to truly test the units that you have in the game. A lot of the difficulty that happens right now is all self-induced, meaning to say you have people like me who's playing with full level 60 squads, not even doing any masteries. I'm just playing my units at skill rank 6, talents unlocked, and I've still stuck there at this point of this game. There are other people who's doing things like solo runs where they use only a singular character to play, and it's interesting that it's possible to use a max character to defeat a boss, for instance. Or you have people that is just using singular team, trying to max them all out. Like, a lot of the difficulty that people try to find are all self-created by the players, but the game itself, I feel, isn't really offering difficulty. Umbral Monument tries to be that, but
No, I'm gonna give my take on that regard. It's literally the same. I'm a Wuwa player. It's literally the same for a game like Wuthering Waves, bro. When I was playing through Wuthering Waves, there was zero content that was challenging. What content would you say was challenging in 1.0 of Wuwa's launch? The only thing you could probably bring up is Tempest Mephis, the hologram. That's it. I beat that shit with Encore. With like the basic team and Encore as my main DPS. Everything else got beat with like a Calcharo. And what were people doing to find challenge in that game? They started playing with Don Jin and doing solo Don Jin. Just like he said here. They started trying out like random 4-star teams only. The same exact situation that is happening with what he just said was happening in Wuwa, and I'm guessing in Genshin too. Because just like Arknights, all of these other games have no difficulty, because if they add difficulty, people will complain and bitch. It's just that simple.
I don't know why everyone in this community has been calling Umbral Monument an endgame when it's not an endgame. If I compare it to Arknights, it's almost like as if a new event in Arknights appeared, like a side story event, right? And then they release a stage, and the
Okay, so here's the thing. They've been calling Umbral Monument an endgame because the game released with no endgame. We still have no endgame. I believe it's been over a month. And there's no active endgame mode, right? There's no endgame mode that refreshes, right? So there was no difficult content whatsoever. Nothing. There was nothing in the game that gave you rewards that was hard. The hardest content they've released is Umbral Monument. So people just called it the endgame content. Not necessarily the endgame modes of the game, but it is the current endgame content. The hardest content in the game, even though it's still not hard, it's easy. But if you ask somebody, what's the hardest content in the game? They would say, you know, Umbral Monument. What else would they say? Oh, well, doing the bosses with trimmed medals, but that's not actual content. That's just a challenge for a one-time medal and you're done. Whereas Umbral Monument is getting new, you know, challenges added every patch or whatever it might be. So that is technically the end game content that we have right now. That's why people call it that.
stage has a challenge mode. It's just a regular stage. That's all it is. If you think about endgame that exists in AK, it's a whole different story when we talk about Contingency Contract, DOS, Vector Breakthrough.
Okay, but that's like, once again, we're going back to actual endgame content that refreshes on some games that have been out for a longer time. So yes, this would be actual endgame content, but the reason people call, you know, this endgame content is because that's all we have, bro.
And the tons of other things that they're doing over there. There is no endgame in ARKNIGHTS ENFIELD right now. But guys,
Yeah.
the game just launched. Why is there a need for endgame when people are still getting accustomed to the many things that happens within the game and trying to understand the different units and how they work?
Okay, I'll answer that question. Just how we were saying that even though the story in other games has been bad in like 1.0 patches, that doesn't justify ARKNIGHTS ENFIELD's story in 1.0 not being good. It should have been good because other games have done already stories like this, so this one should have been better. All of these other games usually launch with an endgame mode. So people expect to have an endgame mode at least on launch, and if it's not on launch, at least a week or 2 or 3 after the game launches, right? People that spend money. This is a genre where people spend money to get stronger characters, dupes, whatever it might be, and not having anywhere to test that stuff is kind of bad, right? It's not what people expect. I agree on the sentiment that we don't need endgame mode when a game first launches, you know, first week. Shit, I'll even say the entire first month, we don't need endgame mode. It's fine because we can just build our teams, take the time, and when endgame mode launches, let's say a month later, we'll be ready to go. But now we're at a point where people would want endgame content. I'm almost done building a second team. Give me like another week and I'll be done with my second team, and it'll be at the same level as my first team that I've been clearing all the content with, got all the trim medals, have done everything. And that's the second team, right? If by the time I'm done within the next week, it's you know, there's no endgame mode, I'll be what, building my third team and waiting for more endgame content. So and that's someone that hasn't wailed for like max duped units, hasn't refreshed a bunch with like actual paid currency. I've done it like twice, 3 times maybe normally, and not like full refresh, just like the 1 or 2 times. That's it. So just a normal player having 3-4 teams by the time Endgame is added is not something that is normal within the gacha game, genre. So that's why people are saying that they want gacha game or this gacha game to have Endgame, okay? Just saying.
We're not at the point where we need to be tested just yet. But now let me bring in my stance as an Arknights player looking at how Enfield is. I don't think the thing we're looking for is Endgame. Endgame is such a loose term that I don't know from where or why it got perpetuated so much in the global gacha community. But funnily speaking, the term Endgame is not something that we use that much in Arknights. We don't really go looking at a new game mode or a new event saying, whoa, that's Endgame and all that kind of thing. AK is a game that is just full of difficulty. Every new event and game mode they release is a whole new challenge for you to take on, and it reframes your understanding of how you use your units. With the likes of integrated strategies, reclamation algorithm, in recent times we got rebuilding mandate. Like, AK...
I'm gonna be honest. As someone that hasn't played Arknights Enfield, or Arknights, the regular Arknights to a big degree, I feel that this review could have been titled Arknights Player or Arknights Veterans Review of Arknights Enfield. Because when we're going at the game and we're comparing so many aspects of it to Arknights, to OG Arknights, I feel that it's a very different situation, right? I agree with what he said with the little bit that I played of Arknights. Yo, hey, Thoma, rating with a party of 3. Appreciate you, bro. With what he said, right? This man just said, Arknights is a game that its entirety difficult. It has a lot of difficult, game modes, a lot of different things, a lot of strategy that goes into all of the activities, the stages, the events, because it's a strategy type of game. It is a turn-based, grid-based type of game where you want to make sure the placement of your units are good, where all of those things matter in the grand scheme of things, right? It's about being strategic, being smart, and knowing what you're doing with your roster. When you compare it to an action type game, the whole concept of the gameplay is completely different, right? Is completely different in my opinion. So it's very difficult to compare those two and try to find like, oh, why do people want Endgame in a game like, Arknights Enfield, when in Arknights the gameplay's like this, right? I understand that what he's trying to say, but the gameplay is just not going to be similar. People want Endgame in a game like Arknights Enfield because you power through, you do your dailies on this superficial content that is not difficult whatsoever, because it's just the way this type of action combat style game is, to finally fight these bosses or this, stage where you get to test how strong you are. Not the entirety of the game. These type of action combat games that require parrying, dodging skills tend to not have hard content. A perfect example of this, didn't they nerf the level of some of the enemies in Arknights Enfield early on in the game after release? I believe some of the enemies got their levels lowered instead of giving them harder, hitting moves and making it harder. They made it easier for players to progress through the game. Because in an action combat style games, the reality of it is they can't make it as challenging and tactical as they do with a game like Arknights, bro. That's just it. So when players finally do all that content and get their characters built, they want to have that one scenario, that one mode where they can go and test out how strong and how good they really are at the game. That's why Endgame and these type of action combat game is so important, as opposed to Arknights where just the entirety of the game has a lot of challenging stages everywhere.
Algorithm. In recent times we got rebuilding mandate. Like, AK is all about giving us innovative and also caterable difficulty. Because that is what Arknights is, playing Arknights Enfield feels like a shame for me, because I want to be able to brag to people that that's what AK is all about, but Enfield's choosing not to explore that very early in the game. They need to understand that yes, there are people who's getting used to the game, there are free-to-play players, there are players that don't really have a lot of time to invest in, and then you have the high end of players, the whalers, the spenders, they're gonna be maxing out everything as fast as they can. With everybody at different phases of the game, there is a sort of need to cater to where they are at this point. That is something that Contingency Contract Beta does pretty well. To those of you who don't play Arknights, let me explain to you one of the very first endgame, okay, let's use that word, first endgame modes that appeared in Arknights. So, Contingency Contract is a game mode where they have a singular stage. They do have other stages as well, not important, but whatever it is, this singular stage, they give you a whole table, list of conditions that you can select. So you can actually handpick how much more difficult you want to make the stage become. So you can increase the enemy's HP, you can lower your unit's attack, you can make enemies maybe perform a different way within the stage, add more enemies into it. So you...
I like game modes like this. I like game modes like this, chat. What is the mode in Wuthering Waves that you could do the exact same thing where it's like select the buffs and debuffs that you put on the bosses and then you go into it and fight the enemies and the bosses? I think that's like my favorite type of content that WoWa had. I always said that should be one of the endgame modes in WoWa rather than an event that comes every like 4 or 5 months. I really like that. I think that's a good endgame mode or a good event or a good mode to have in these games that, like he says, allows people of different stages of the game to test it out. With that said, though, maybe the Arknights community is a lot more chill regarding this topic. In a game like WoWa, an action combat styled game, people think they should be able to beat the last stage with all the modifiers active, with all the debuffs active. And guess what they say if they're not able to do that, even at minimal investment or with whatever team they want to run? They'll say the game is pay to win. They'll say the devs don't care. They made it too hard. You got to have the latest units. They're doing this and they're doing that because they did it. When WoWa first ever released, is it Virtual Crisis or what? One of those? Yeah. When those events released, that was what was going on. And guess what you got for clearing it with like all the modifiers active in Wuthering Waves? You got like a freaking, bro, you got like a little title on your profile. That's it. You were able to get all the rewards without doing that, but players were still mad because they couldn't do that unless they had a, like you said, hyper optimized account and everything. With these action type games, it's a lot different than these strategy based games. I feel like strategy based games, people understand that if they're not ready, they just can't beat it because their strategy, their teams, their positioning, what their characters have, they're able to accomplish, they're just not there. But in a combat game, people use the excuse of like dodging, parrying, quick time events, all of that to justify being able to clear everything with whatever unit they have. They should be able to clear everything with a main DPS Verena. Just dumb shit like that when it comes to it. But nonetheless, this type of activity here is definitely one of the best freaking types of content when it comes to these gacha games.
Modify the stage according to what you yourself are able to achieve. The great thing for that is that when it comes to rewards that you can get from playing this event, they didn't make it such that you have to select every single difficulty. They kept it at the familiar naming, which is risk 18. So a lot of people will try to strive for that, and then afterwards, anything beyond risk 18, there's no reward. But if anything that happens, it's for your own personal satisfaction. No medals or anything. If you want to just show off to people that, hey, I can complete the whole table, or I can do like, -5 of the conditions, you can do that. The great thing is that in quite a lot of contingency contracts, from the multiple seasons, there are times that people cannot finish all the difficulties. And because of that, for the bigger spenders or for the people who are like so into the gameplay, they become very invested that they can put the time into really challenging and pushing the units that they already own. Whereas for the other people who are like just starting out the game, the newer to the game, they don't need to feel so bad that they can't do that kind of like high difficulty stuff. They are given a position that even as a person who doesn't understand game mechanics or a new player, they can still comfortably get all the rewards and just leave it be. So what I mean to say is that there is no place right now in the game where I feel it satisfies the higher end of players. I think it's okay for, all of us budding new people going to school and experiencing the first day of class type of vibe. But again, I do think there's a big category of like rushing type of players, especially the content creators. I feel like they're the ones that are very loud about how the game state is like not very nice. But I think it's also self-induced because you rush the game. As a result, the game not having anything that's catered to you makes you think there's nothing going on.
Yo, he cooked right there. Homie got bars with that shit, because I was talking about this yesterday on stream chat, and the reality of it is that people will look at you in your eyes, bro. People will look at you dead in your shit, and they'll be like, I've played 500 hours of this game in the last 3 weeks. This game sucks. There is nothing to do. What? They will tell you, yeah, bro, I haven't slept. I haven't washed my ass. I haven't done anything but play this brand new gacha game. I have 1,000 hours in 1 month. This game sucks. There is nothing to do, man. Motherfucker, what? And that's a lot of people, including specifically being led by the content creators, bro, that will say things like that. But there's also a lot of players like that, bro. When I was covering Duet Not Abyss, there'll be people out there telling me, they'll legit tell me, I'm bored of Duet Not Abyss. There's nothing to do. You'd look at their profile and they'll have like 1,200 hours in the game in like their first month and a half. Bro, if you have 1,200 hours, 1,300 hours in a video game and a little bit over a month of the game being out, what do you mean there's nothing to do? What the fuck? Like, bro, do me a favor. Do the math on how many hours per day you would have to play in a month to get like 1,000 hours. 1,000 hours in 1 month. Tell me how many hours a day you would have to be playing that video game. That's just going to be like 15. That's just going to be like 20 hours a day. That's just going to be like a shitload of hours a day. And then people will still look at you and be like, yeah, these games suck. There's nothing to do. And they're playing these games like it's a full-time job, bro. So on that regard, Kuki literally cooked, bro.
It's not the content creators' fault or such rushers' fault that they are doing this.
27 hours in 1 day? I know what that's from. You know what I mean, bro?
I think it's for the game to actually do that job, to make sure that they feel like they have a place to play within the game. There is already opportunity for difficulty to exist within this game, with the likes of Edge Space Salvage, which, by the way, of all the different innovative and bright stuff that Hyperglyph has ever done, I need to just straight away tell you, this is the worst game mode I've ever seen Hyperglyph make.
Okay, see, this right here, once again, this is my... So far, I'm liking some of the things he's saying. I'm not agreeing with some of the things he's saying. I think it's a great review so far with what he's saying. But as someone that hasn't played Arknights, there's a lot of points where it's hard for me to connect regarding things that he's saying. A lot of you might be Arknights players. You guys might be able to understand better. But when I look at it from that point of view, when he's comparing the intricacies of a tactical and a strategy game, right? A tactical and a strategy game like Arknights to an action combat-driven game like Arknights Enfield, of course, the intricacies, the complexities, the strategies that you would apply to, you know, the content and the events in Arknights is going to be much higher than that of Arknights Enfield. But when I grab Edge Space Salvage and I compare it to like Tower of Adversity seems like a fucking beta test mode. It seems like I'm doing just a regular gear dungeon stage. It just has a little bit more floors to it. Whereas Edge Space Salvage feels like a dungeon, like an explorable dungeon with like different floors and like shortcuts and secret paths and hidden loot and chests, and I'm running around the map and exploring and finding and all these little missions to make my stuff better and give me more damage, more survivability, more storage. All of that has felt so much better than the game modes in games like Wuthering Waves, games like Genshin Impact, games like Tower of Fantasy and Duet Night Abyss, games like that, those other open worldly type of games, it's felt better. But if I compare it to a game that's known for its strategy, intricacies, and all of that, then it might not be as well developed, okay? So that's why I'm saying, like, this could have been an Arknights Veterans review of Arknights Enfield, and then it would have been easier for people to understand that it's going to be a lot of comparisons between two games that are completely different, that from the graphics to the gameplay to the movement to the combat to everything, it's just different. It would have been easier to understand that, because every time a comparison gets brought up between Arknights and Arknights Enfield, I'm kind of there like, well, shit, you know what I mean? I can't fathom to put those two together, and I always default to comparing Arknights Enfield to other games within its type of genre, okay?
The concept of that game mode, I like it, but the execution of it is so poor. Okay, I feel like I'm not in the position to speak about what I think that they should improve about the game mode, because I'm not someone who studies game design. But I do think I have some concrete things that still runs along this line of having difficulty in the game. So the whole purpose of Edge Space Salvage is that you run around within the world, you collect the items, and then afterwards you have a backpack, right? At a certain point, if you run out of backpack space or you run out of time, then you are needing to leave the space. And then midway through, you find some chests, you kill some enemies. The crazy thing about this game mode that I feel is, how did you create a game mode that makes me feel like there is no risk or no loss? There are such genres of games like dress-up cosmetics game, but in a game where it's combat-based, how did you manage to do a game mode that just makes me feel like I'm walking around aimlessly? I'd rather play The Sims, which is a great game by the way, but there's more risk for me to feel in that game because my characters can actually die if I don't feed them or let them go to sleep.
Okay, so here's one of those things. This is one of those things where, personally, right, I agree with Kuki in the sense that I like difficult content, right? I like games that give me a challenge. I don't mind dying in a game. I don't mind if, you know, certain things happen in these games where I gotta, like, redo a stage and things like that. But the reality of it is that gacha players don't like that. Some people already have an issue with Edge Space Salvage, right? They don't like the fact that they get kicked out once their meter is full, right? They gotta do challenges to improve their characters and such, or their you know, buffs and such. They don't like that. Now, if you add on top of that it's harder and you die and you lose everything you've gathered to then upgrade so then you can be stronger, people are going to complain even more. Once again, I'm with him. I would like it to be harder. And maybe later, as we get like floor 5, we just got floor 4. Maybe as we get floor 5, 6, 7, it'll get harder. Or maybe after a while, once we get like up to 10 floors, they'll add a hard difficulty. Now that would be everything. That would be a lot better. But right now, I don't feel the sense of, like someone just said, urgency, right? The sense of urgency is not there. I guess the only sense of urgency that we had, or at least at the very beginning, was, are we going to be able to get to the boss fast enough, or are we going to be able to achieve the challenge that we were put in there to finish before our corruption meter is full, right? That's the only sense of urgency that's there, okay?
The genre of this game mode is basically called Extraction, which the most famous game title that has extraction is Escape from Tarkov. And even a game like that has its own risk involved, where if you die within the world of Escape from Tarkov, you lose a lot of the progress they've already made in the game. So it's all about getting back safely. And when it comes to getting back safely, the concept of extraction in that game is very different. You don't just leave the world at any time and then, you know, come back to the spawn point. No, when you go further and deeper within the world and you've collected all these stuff, you need to go back to your safe zone and then TP back into your own home. So there is a sort of risk where if you don't do that, you might lose all the items. There's pressure within that. So that becomes a thing where your sanity management of your derangement and time becomes very important. But as you progress in HP Salvage, it's kind of irrelevant. You don't need to be so uptight about it.
I like that. I like that idea, bro. Not gonna lie, I like that idea, what he just said. Maybe, like I said, maybe in higher floors, bro. Let's be honest, guys. Maybe floor 1, 2, 3, and 4 were just a tutorial, or at least that's what we're saying to ourselves. But maybe in higher floors, it would be nice, right? Like if we get to like floor 5, and from floor 5 onward, you know, we got to make sure that we return back to the base, to like that central hub where we start off, so we can extract with our loot. I think that would be pretty cool. Like, just thinking about it now, I think I would have fun with that. It would be a little bit of a pain in the ass, a little bit of urgency, but I think that would be cool. I think that would be pretty cool.
And then, this is also another strange game design that I feel from Hypergrave, which is they decided to scale the levels of the enemies with the zone that they are in, which I don't disagree to it, that Zone 3 should have higher level enemies than Zone 1. And because Zone 3 is further in, maybe the resources are more valuable or rarer, right? Then yes, they should have harder enemies within there. But there is, again, no penalty in the amount of time that you spend within there. Why is the scalar only location and not just the amount of time that you get? So you imagine this sort of concept where the spawn point that you have is where you need to return to. There are other safe zones actually in HP Salvage, but let's just say that you only have one return point, right? You go deep into Zone 3, you spend a lot of time. For every minute that you spend there, the enemies become more dangerous. And since you need to get back to the spawn point as well, imagine that with more time that you spend, you get random enemies that spawn and they have harder stuff that goes on within them to stop you from trying to get back into your safe zone. That makes HP Salvage a lot more exciting when it comes to like, oh yes, I got to grab these stuff, but at what point should I start making my way out of this place?
That's good. I like those ideas, bro. I'm not gonna lie, I like those ideas. Like I said though, I don't have a problem with the fact that even 1 through 4 are normal. If they were to implement those ideas he's saying at, like, you know, edge space floor 5, that would be lit. 5, 6, 7. Once those floors eventually get added, or those zones get added, I think that would be pretty damn cool. You know, I think the beginning zones could be something for beginner players and people to just build up all those little missions. But once those other floors are added, I think what he's saying right now is honestly super good. I think it would be very, very good, very fun, and it would make that mode that I already like. I really like Edge Space Salvage, but I think if they do what he's, you know, suggesting, it would be really good.
Time as a difficulty scaler is not unheard of in Arknights. They do that with Stronghold Protocol. They do that with SSS, where the more time that you take, then they will make your life more difficult. Why aren't they doing that with HP Salvage? It's such a boring game mode. But this is what I mean, that difficulty is so important to the...
I'm not gonna lie though, I'm not gonna lie, I don't think it's actually a boring game mode. Like I said, bro, I come from games like Genshin Impact and Wuthering Waves, and to me, doing what they consider endgame mode, or those activities where you go into a room and you fight enemies, and then you click next and you go into the next stage, and it's still a circular room, or like a square room, bro. And then you fight enemies again. When you look at that, bro, that's boring to me. The fact that I go into edge space and I run around, I have to open up pathways, I open up shortcuts that I later get to use to get to other places faster. That's already more intricate, more fun to me than those other modes from these other games, okay?
Game, and Enfield needs to do it to impress people. It comes in the form of future enemy designs, future game mode designs, and improving on whatever that they say are permanent game modes. I think it's a little bit... what's the word for this? Humorous? I think it's really harsh for me to put a word like this, but HP Salvage is an embarrassment to Hypergrave's brand. And if you call it a permanent game mode, treat it like one in terms of your development. I think they can fix it, and that's why I'm even proposing solutions for it. Alright.
Okay, question. let me ask you a question. When it comes to Arknights, just regular Arknights, has every mode that they've done that is endgame mode-ish always been like just super good, like mind-blowingly good? Or has there been things with some of these modes that are like they could be better? They leave room to be improved in some areas or others, right? Because once again, I don't know about Arknights, and when you say this,
Hypergrid Sprint, and if it work like this, but Edge-based salvage is an embarrassment to Hypergrid Sprint.
when you say edge-based salvage is an embarrassment to Hypergrip Sprint, embarrassment is not just bad. We're talking about like bottom tier. You don't want to be associated with it. It's like one of the worst things you could possibly say, right? You could possibly do. That is an embarrassment. So when I think of edge-based salvage and I'm seeing and it's being painted as like an embarrassment, I'm here thinking that Arknights events and endgame and combat events like this are like just so far superior in every single aspect, in every single way, in everything, every single one of those events, even the very first one. That's crazy to put out, because I get edge-based salvage might not be the greatest game mode ever, but it's to say it's an embarrassment, it makes me think, yo, is Arknights events and content that much better in every single aspect? Not just better, not just good, not just a lot better, just it seems like it's on like completely different realms. Like we're comparing a game from like 2006 to like 2030 fucking video game. That's what it feels like to me, right?
And if you call it a permanent game mode, treat it like one in terms of your development. I think they can fix it, and that's why I'm even proposing solutions for it. Alright, 1/3 done. Next one, replayability, which is kind of linked to difficulty. When there is difficulty within the game and you cater to the various players can feel more aligned with the game. So doing the things that I said in front can make the game feel like it's more replayable. But it's not the only thing that should happen. Two parts to this discussion. Firstly, the current replayable loop, which is also really not fun because
Wait, there is a replayable loot? What is the replayable loot in Arknights Enfield? Just, I mean, I would assume it's the same loop we have in every gacha game. Log in, do your dailies, whatever little side quests and missions you get on a daily basis, little daily activities, and you're out. That's it. You know what I'm saying? Be so real right now. CJ, when was the last time you played Genshin? Why are you LARPing like one right now? Because I played Genshin Impact. I have more Genshin Impact videos in my channel that I have for not for Withering Waves, but actually maybe even for Withering Waves. I probably still have more Genshin Impact videos on my channel than I have for Arknights Enfield, and probably for Withering Waves. So I say that as a Genshin Impact player and as a Withering Waves player, I don't have to play the games actively today, but I was a player that spent months and hours and thousands of dollars playing the games. So I played them and understood them. And then when we're comparing 1.0 of Arknights Enfield, I played through 1.0 of Genshin Impact and Withering Waves and Duet Night Abyss and Tower of Fantasy. So I'm giving my takes from those points of views.
why is it that every single day when I log in, what I have to do is basically to deal with my outposts, to deal with my stocks, to do my deliveries. Like, the thing is, I kind of don't give a damn about them at some point because you really don't need to be so sensitive to collect the bills all the time.
Yeah.
But yet, because the game puts it there that, hey, this is something that refreshes daily, go and do it, you of course feel like, okay, fine, I'll do it. But it's not that interesting to constantly be ziplining down to deliver to the same guy or to transfer the job to someone else. And even for the outposts, of course you don't have to sell your products every day. You can do it every 2 or 3 days. But even then, like, why must I click? Why can't it be automated? Which is gonna be crazy if I tell you that in beta test 1, the factory outpost was automated. Like, they remove automation of the outposts from beta test 2 and the launch. I do not understand. Why do you need to give that sort of burden to the players to always need to check in on the screen that doesn't add enjoyment to one's game? The thing about the actual current daily loop of Enfield is that it's actually quite okay. It just takes 5 minutes for you to just click around.
Okay, so I'm gonna be honest. This is just my take. I don't mind playing the games that I enjoy. If I enjoy Arknights Enfield, I don't mind playing the game. Okay? So I'm gonna just give you my take. When I look at Arknights Enfield's dailies, I can get them done in like 3 minutes. If that, I do the daily mission, which gives me 80 points, and then I do like 2 stamina runs, two dungeon runs for like, I don't know, credits or skill level up materials, whatever, and I'm done. That takes me about 3 minutes, and I'm done. After that, I probably have, I'll say 15 to 20 minutes of gameplay. If I'm slow and maybe pick up mint as I run around the map, maybe 25 minutes of gameplay. So let's just say for a grand total, doing all my activities daily manually without zip lines or nothing, I get 30 minutes of gameplay from Arknights Enfield on a daily basis. That's not too bad, bro. I understand doing the deliveries and all of that is boring and whatever, and like some of the factory stuff is boring. I understand that. But if we didn't have all those things, it would just be your regular schmegular log in and you're done in 3 minutes. Just like I do when I log into WUWA and all the other gacha games I play when I'm caught up, where I play 3 minutes a day and I'm done. And I understand that a lot of people like that and want that from their gacha games, but maybe the developer said, shit, maybe we want the players to get a little bit more involved with the game. And I know that doing deliveries is not like the most fun thing, but it's also not too bad to the point that it's like it kills you to just go to point A to point B. It's like, it's just normal shit. Sometimes I don't do it. Sometimes I just transfer over the deliveries for those people that do them. And some people actually do like doing that shit, okay? I'm just saying. That's all I'm saying, personally. I've never seen the ability to play more as a bad thing when you are at least getting rewards. And if it was automated, that'll be great. Less stuff for us to do, I suppose. But the fact that it's not automated is also not like the end of the world, bro. Doing your deliveries is going to take you like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 if you have well-placed zip lines. So when you look at it, it's not like you're having to play the game for 3 hours. You're just having to play the game for a few more minutes every day by doing these activities. So it's not too bad, okay? Not super enjoyable still, but not too bad.
But the trouble with this 5 minutes is it's a very unentertaining 5 minutes. Like compared to Arknights, where you log in, you just check in your base, collect all, then you go into your stages, you farm it once, you collect all your missions in one go, you check in on just minor areas, and then you log out. Like, that one feels a little bit more peaceful, I would say. But then in the case of Enfield, you get a lot of screens that just makes you go, must I really do this? It's just really strange that it's a game that prides on automation, but I don't see the automation in terms of my daily life in this game. The daily loop needs fixing. And then, of course, you guys are going to start talking about pool economy, okay? Wait. Gacha is the last problem that we'll talk about later on.
Okay, so once again, right? I think the solution to that automation would be automating your deliveries, automating all these little things, and once again, we're back to the 5-minute gameplay loop that we have in every single gacha game. That's fine. I mean, it's like I was saying a few days ago, it's gacha game. It's just the way it works. If people in the game model is meant to be just get on for 5 minutes and play 5 minutes, unless it's weekly reset where we usually have like bosses and the weekly activities and such. But normally, if the idea is, making everything run on its own and smooth, so you only have to play for, 5 minutes a day, 3 minutes a day, doing your dailies and get out, that's fine. If that is what people truly want, then by all means give it to them, okay?
The second part to this is that the replayable stuff after you've done your dailies, like why would you stick around to play the game more than just the daily missions you have to complete? In Arknights itself, we do have the ability for you to play not just from your stages being completed, but there are tons of things that you get to do in order to push your teams without the use of your own energy, with the likes of integrated strategies, recognition algorithms, SSS, annihilation, side story events, main story.
Bro, see what I'm saying, bro? It's like when this reminds me a lot. You know what this reminds me of, chat? And tell me if I'm wrong with this. These comparisons between Arknights and Arknights Enfield, when he brings up all these game modes and all these things, reminds me of when people bring up Warframe and Duet Night Abyss. And they'll list out like 20 different things that you can do in Duet Night Abyss and why it's better. And they'll list out like 20 things that you can do in Warframe and why Warframe is better than Duet Night Abyss. They'll say how they have like 20 different game modes and all these ways to get resources and currency and money and weapons. And then they'll go back to Duet Night Abyss and be like, yeah, but Duet Night Abyss doesn't have any of that. And it's like, but all of that content has been added over the course of months and years of development. When Warframe first released, it didn't have all of those things. So over time, it gathered all of that content that made it the game that it is today. That is the type of vibe that I'm getting every time he brings up all of these things that Arknights has, that Arknights Enfield doesn't have. Because it's not, at least it's not getting framed from a perspective of all of these things would be good if they were here in the future. It's being presented in a way that feels more like, well, the game doesn't feel good right now because it doesn't have things like this, right? And then it's things that have taken some of these developers years to implement into the other game he's using to compare it with. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's what it sounds like a little bit more, rather than like comparing it onto what it is right now for what it offers and maybe how some of the things right now could be improved. And that's why when he gave his ideas for Edge Space Salvage, I was like, yo, those ideas are pretty damn good, right? Like having to return back to the base and things like that to extract. That sounds like very, very, good ideas to improve the current content we have in the game. Or even things like this, like where he could say, oh, look, we have these game modes. If they could implement this in the future, it would be good. But since it's a review of 1.0 and we're bringing up content that could be years in the making in this other game, it doesn't find the balance with me. Like, oh, I don't like, or this is not good in Arknights Enfield because it doesn't have these type of activities like we have in these other games, and it's activities that could have been added on the second year or 6 months or 2 years after the game released, giving the devs plenty of time to integrate them into the game. It just feels like it's not a fair comparison to that type of presentation that he's doing regarding the 1.0 version of Arknights Enfield. Not attacking what he's saying, just the type of vibe that I'm getting when he brings up these comparisons.
Chapters, holographic combat matrix, paradox simulations, any old stage that you want to revisit and put your units to the test, there's like 20 different things that you can do after you're done with the daily loop. Enfield, what can I do? Punch some monsters in the overworld. I did start the video saying that...
You see? It's kind of like that, right? What can I do in Arknights Enfield right now in the 1.0 update? Punch a lizard in the overworld. What can I do in Arknights? And then he proceeds to list like 10 different activities and game modes and things that you can do in Arknights. But we're looking at an Arknights that has been out for years, has had many updates, and many of those things that you can do in it added over the years, over the development and introduction of things into the game, as opposed to the 1.0 update. You get where I'm coming from with that?
Enfield is repeating Arknights history, where in the first 2 years of Arknights, all these delicious game modes that we brag about don't exist at that point in time. So there's a part to say that Enfield doesn't require it at this point in time. But again, as a successor to Arknights, a part of me feels that if you want to give AK players the ability to, go tell everybody else that don't play Arknights that this is why Hypergraph is so good at making games, I kind of wish that they offered better replayability. Again, Edge Space could have been that opportunity, but it's lost on that part. Or
So I will agree with what he's saying regarding replayability, but then earlier he said, why do we want endgame modes right now? He said that earlier. Endgame modes are usually that replayability that people are looking for. They usually reset every week or every 2 weeks or every month. And that is where people come into looking at the replayable factor. Why go back in to do it? Because we're going to get more rewards and it could be a new challenge to test out my team comps, yada, yada, yada. So earlier it was the whole, I don't know why we want endgame mode right now. And right now is we want more replayability. Maybe there are different types of things that you'd like, but that's where I'd say the replayability comes from, right? At least in these type of combat-oriented gacha games. The endgame mode. I also want a reason to log in every 2 weeks and have like these dungeons or whatever. Like you said, HP Salvage would have been amazing if it was an actual resettable mode that gives you reason to go in with a little bit more challenge as you progress through the mode. That would have been really cool. But we don't have a mode right now that we could say is true endgame that has replayability in it. We don't have that, but it would be good to have that.
Or it could be anything else really. And that's something that they really need to work on. And not just in terms of combat, but also the factory. If I observe a bit of the community reception into why they like Enfield, Enfield became the first touch point for a lot of people to experience a factory simulation game. They've never purchased one before in their PC or phone, and Enfield being the first time they experienced, they realized, hey, actually this is really enjoyable. So Enfield could be capitalizing on this opportunity by making sure that the factory is a strong point, something that people can always look forward to when logging into the game.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they didn't do that. Once you've built your factory, all your outposts, all your main bases are already built and you can satisfy the outposts, that's the end of it. Why would you explore to build the factory even more? Maybe you want to do a bit of funky design, but there's only so much time that you want to do weird stuff with the factory, and eventually you start thinking to yourself, I can't really do very interesting things as compared to the actual bigger factory simulation titles.
Okay, that's where I was going to say. I personally haven't played a lot of factory simulation titles, so I don't know how those work when it comes to like endgame once you have like your full factory built in a factory simulation type of game. Like, what happens at that point that gives the factory more replayability? And with that said, once again, we go back into the fact that we're talking about gacha game and gacha players, right? We look at what a lot of people had to say regarding the factory system. They don't like it. A lot of people hate it. A lot of people think it's horrible. They hate the tutorials. I have people in my chat right now that literally quit the game because of the factory system, even though we have blueprints that we can copy from other people, right? There are people that don't like the factory system. They think it's overly complicated, that it's hard to understand, yada, yada, yada. Now imagine if they made it so the factory system was an even bigger part of it, a more complex part of it, where it could compare to these factory simulation types of games. It would have been even harder for the common gacha player to get into ARKNIGHTS Enfield. So it's like this type of balance that they're trying to find, where it's like kind of complex with the factory system, but not too complex, where it's basically a factory simulation game, because it would be difficult. Gacha is just a very loose type of scenario with the way that a lot of these things are implemented, because it's very easy to like add something new to the game that you might think is good, but actually pushes people away. For example, making the factory even more complicated than it already is could push away even more people. It could also bring in a dedicated audience that loves the factory system, but it could also push away a lot of the people that just like the combat, the exploration, the waifu collecting, yada, yada, yada. So it's one of those things that's a little bit tricky, right? For example, in a game like Duet Not a Biz, they added the ability to get all the characters and gear and weapons for free, but it would require you to grind a lot, and people didn't like that either. So it's a touchy subject of balancing these new mechanics that give players something different to do from your traditional gacha games.
Should be well aware that people really do enjoy the factory aspect of the game. And There's even people who are saying things like, I hate the blueprint, I wish people weren't copying, and I wish people learnt it more, right? So I totally agree. In this case, I feel like it's on Hypergrid's part to, again, be able to use their expertise to be delivering a sort of replayable feeling towards the factory. There's ideas that I have, but it's definitely less concretized, I would say, compared to the things I proposed before. Like, for instance, they could maybe every week propose like a brand new formula of a random item that you have to sell to outposts, and then it's just bonus builds and you have to build it. It's not like you have to, but do it in your own interest and time. They can do a sort of mini game of a factory where it doesn't allow people to copy blueprints, right? It sets up a challenge. Can you produce a pipeline in 10 minutes? And they give you the formula where you know how to sequence everything without any sort of guidance. Of course,
I already know people in my chat be out here like about to pop a blood vessel. You can't copy blueprints. I know all y'all motherfuckers be watching I Win to Lose and all these people that do these super professional base builds. I know some of y'all don't be doing them base. Now imagine if we couldn't copy our goddamn blueprints. Oh, hell no, bro. I would have done quit the game. With how important the factory is, bro. The factory is you cannot play Arknights Enfield without playing the factory aspect of it. You cannot. You can't, bro. You need to do the factory to build your gear, to buy the shit, bro, almost everything. Okay? So if they made that even more complex, bro, I already use a homie's blueprints, and when we're gonna make new builds, we get in call and we kind of do all that. It's already Ebola for me like that. If it was more complex than that, like way more complex, I love Arknights Enfield. I love the combat. I love the graphics. I love the world. I probably would have quit already. It just wouldn't be the type of game that I want. It would have been the game for other people, which is great. I think that's cool, but it just wouldn't have been my game. So far, I'm fine with the current level of, factory, as well with the current level of everything else, and hopefully in the future they do introduce other things for factory. Like I was talking to people a while back of how they can add a new map area eventually where there's like tornadoes and there's winds and stuff, right? There's a lot of wind, and they can add a new windmill system to Arknights where the windmills generate energy and you got to do certain things with it. That's cool. Another place is like a volcano, and you get energy from the volcano to run your base, and little things like that little by little make it better. Great, that's dope. But if it gets way too intricate into the factory system, that it is just not for me.
people will still use videos if there's no blueprints. But you get my point. Like, again, I'm not as good in terms of proposing a solution here. All I can say is this is definitely a selling point, and it's an area they must work on. I am absolutely dying for something more replayable in the game. It's not going to appear in patch 1.1 because we've already seen what's in the live stream. I still hope it's going to be a fun patch. And it's fine if all those experiences of side stories and main quests are one-time things that you settle in 2 days. But please, Hypergrid, we love Arknights for just how much you can do that is not just from a singular patch update alone. All the past content that you have made permanent are still so fun today. Even IS2 that appeared in year 2 of Arknights is still a fun game mode today. So therefore, you can do the same in Enfield. Please.
Okay, see? I like Kuki, and I like a lot of the takes that he has. I feel that there are so many aspects of this video that could have been put into different types of videos. Like, for example, the review I think would have been a great title if it was a title like an Arknights Veterans review of Arknights Enfield. But when he says things like this in particular right here,
that you have made permanent are still so from a singular patch update alone. All the past content that you have made permanent are still so fun today. Even IS2 that appeared in year 2 of Arknights is still a fun game mode today.
When you say all of the past content that you've made in Arknights, even this mode that you've made in your second year of the game being out, would be good, right? If you did things like this for Arknights Enfield, I feel that that would be the type of video that you could title, for example, things that Arknights Enfield needs to be better. Ideas to improve, how to improve Arknights Enfield. How to improve Arknights Enfield. And these modes, he can go into like what he did earlier in the video where he explained this mode right here. where he explained that mode and said how it works with the buffs and debuffs that makes it sound interesting. He can give like several other game modes that Arknight does and how it could maybe be implemented to like Arknight's Enfield that would make it be really good. But when you tell me Arknight's Enfield's 1.2 version is not that good, or at least it lacks in all these aspects, and once again, the comparison point is the content that was added to this game on its second year of being out and how it's still fun. It's like, maybe we need to give the same amount of time we gave Arknights to Arknight's Enfield so they can cook up these modes. Maybe they won't, but at the same time, maybe they will. Saying that 1.0 right now doesn't meet the standards of what a 2-year-old version of this other game is, just though, that's the part of the video where I keep finding a little bit of conflict regarding the takes that we're talking about, okay? Someone said, but why do we have to wait 2 years again? They should make a good mode day one. So you're saying we go back to the Duet Night Abyss Warframe situation. You're saying that they should make Duet Night Abyss be able to compete with Warframe day one. That's what you're saying. That they should make a game from launch that should be able to satisfy players that are playing another game that has 10 years worth of content. How does that make sense? Shit, let me just say it like this. You're saying they should make a game that can compete with the amount of content and activities that another game has after 2 years of being out. Not saying that they shouldn't give us no content, but they should definitely not be out here getting put on a comparison table versus a game that has years worth of development and content. That shit literally makes no sense. Right? You just said, no, Arknights has 10 plus good replayable modes. I want Arknights Enfield to have one. We've already stated that we would like one for now on 1.0, and where that is already a point that is lacking. We've already stated that. But within the continued comparison, there's been multiple points within this video where multiple modes are being mentioned and multiple things are being mentioned, and how that is not currently something we have in Arknights Enfield 1.0. So I understand personally, yes, we need an endgame mode in Arknights Enfield that gives us replayability. Absolutely. On that regard, I've never disagreed with Kuki or with anybody else. I've been saying that for weeks, bro. We need something to do. When they introduced the latest event or endgame that we have in Arknights Enfield, it was like, great, but then there doesn't reset. We gotta wait for the next. It's kind of like if it was resetting, right? Because it's getting new stages added or whatever. But it's not really an endgame, right? So we do want more endgame. We've all said that. But when we go back to comparing it to all these different activities that this other game has, we go back to Duet Night Abyss versus Warframe, which is a conversation that makes no sense, right? That makes no sense. He is mentioning multiple modes to show that Hypergrift is capable of making good modes. Absolutely agree. But once again, it's the way that it's being presented, personally, that I think just doesn't fit the narrative of why 1.0 wasn't good in that regard. Yes, we would have enjoyed a better endgame mode with a lot of replayability, but in this same video, he said, right, why do we need endgame mode right now? We don't. He said that. But there are multiple points where he's given out other ideas for other endgame modes that are good ideas that would be great if they were added, but using it as a comparison point as to why 1.0 it's not as good because it doesn't have that content. But earlier it was like, oh, the 1. We don't need hard content right away or endgame mode. So that's where I'm at with that.
So therefore, you can do the same in Enfield, please. Otherwise, I'm sad. Fine.
Yeah, no, agreed. Definitely need more endgame content in the game and another activity to do when it comes to the end game. I've always said it, the end game, bro. That is what we call the end game. We do need something like that. But saying that and not saying that's what he's saying, but you in the chat, right, that make it sound like we need the amount of content that these other games have in order to compare it to those, it just shit makes no sense. You compare it to 1.0 launches of other games recently, right? You can compare it even to like 1.1, 1.2 updates of those games. Like you could compare ARKNIGHTS ENFIELD 1.0 to like up to 1.3 of like WUWA and all the amount of content if you'd like. But saying, okay, well, in WUWA, by the time we got to 2.0, we had Whimpering Waste and we had Tower of Adversity. Why do we have only one game mode in this one that's kind of like an end game mode? I feel like it's a little bit unfair. Yeah, it might be a newer game, but development time, cost, and the amount of content that gets put into a game is not something these developers could just do right away with the launch of every single game. Nobody does that, bro.
No topic. Gacha! Welcome! I think some of you skipped the video to only listen to this part. Congratulations. Anyways, yes, gacha is a problem to me. But not in the same way that I think some people are highlighting. So,
I would rather have no game modes than another Whimpering Waste. Yo, people be hating Whimpering Waste. To be fair, Whimpering Waste was kind of ass, bro. I hate the enemy AI, bro.
thing about patch 1.0, as for what I can see for free-to-play players, is that by the time you're at Yvonne's banner, which is what's happening right now, I do think that you can collect a token.
This man said Enfield and Wuthering Waves optimization is trash. I lag and have first person frame load drop stuttering in both games. Optimization is very bad. This man be playing with like a fucking toaster or something, bro. I played this game on a fucking like 2060 and shit like that, like old ass thing with like fucking 8 gigs of RAM, and my games were running smooth, bro. Like WUWA was running all right. I obviously didn't have it on max graphics. WUWA did have a lot more optimization issues than ARKNIGHTS. I play ARKNIGHTS without a problem on both my PlayStation and on my computer. And now I have a better computer, but I didn't have a better computer like months ago. I had a 2060, bro. Like, bro, and it runs smooth, like no problem. So I don't know. Yeah, bro, like what games do you play that run good? And not saying that not all games are going to run good, but ARKNIGHTS ENFIELD is arguably one of the best optimized gacha games, especially in this grand scale of like open world action combat that we've gotten in the last several years, bro.
Of 260 pools, around there, like 250 to 270 as a free-to-play, which actually means that you can guarantee 2 characters. Maybe you couldn't guarantee Gilberta, so you skip her and then you try to guarantee Yvonne. You all have all different methods. Or some of you got lucky, right? You spent 80 pools, you won 50-50 3 times as a free-to-play player, so you got all 3 characters in that amount of free pools that you got. But it is very nerve-wracking to see that all these pools that you collect are not things that you get straight away at the start of the game. It's all about you experiencing the game every single hour, finding all the chests, finding all the side quests, doing all of the main story, completing all the stages for the first time, and then you claim all these pools ever so slowly to attain that 260. I think...
Is that not how most gachas work nowadays? Yo, is that... Did he just describe how, like, WUWA works, how Genshin worked, how, like, literally every game nowadays works? Or am I tripping? Because I'm pretty sure this is how all of these gacha games work.
Pools that you got. But it is very nerve-wracking to see that all these pools that you collect are not things that you get straight away at the start of the game. It's all about you experiencing the game every single hour, finding all the chests, finding all the side quests, doing all of the main story, completing all the stages for the first time, and then you claim all these pools ever so slowly to attain that 260.
Bro, isn't that how all of the gachas work? Dog, I'm literally playing a brand new, well, not brand new, but I'm new in this gacha game. I have to beat the story. I gotta do the side quests. I gotta do all the little missions, the little achievables, everything unlockable so I can keep getting the currency. I don't remember the last time. I don't remember the last time that a gacha game advertised that you can get 260 pulls or whatever number of pulls, and you click start and you just have the 260 pulls in your inventory. Unless it's like some doo-doo ass dog water gacha game. Some of those do be giving you like 100, 200, 300 pulls just for fucking clicking start. But I don't remember the last time that I play any of these games, bro, that does that. Even Arknights. I started Arknights like 2-3 days ago. I didn't have hundreds of pulls when I started the game. I've had to like play the game. I've had to like beat the stories, beat the quests, do the achievements, collect the little things, do my dailies, my weeklies. I've had to do all of that. That's just like every single gacha game since the dawn of time, bro. Like every game that I can think of is like that. NTE is about to release. They're probably going to drop an ad. You can get 300 summons when you play this game. And you're going to start and you're going to have to do what? The story, the side quest, the exploration, the chest, the this. The same thing is the exact same thing in all of these games. That's just like a normal thing for these gacha games.
I think this amount of hard work that you need to get the pulls is so unusual for an Arknights player because it's not that difficult in Arknights for us to get pulls. You just get your pulls from your daily missions and annihilation, and that's all the avenues that they put. Yes, you can get Originate Prime from completing stages for the first time, but we don't tend to use it for pulls. We tend to use it for skins, unless in emergency scenarios then we convert it. But in the case of Enfield, you are scrapping every time, and I think that just puts so much stress on the players. As a result, you have so many people every single day in the first month and maybe even now still complaining that Enfield's gacha is horrible. Pools are nowhere to be found. Like, what's the point if I tell you there's 260 if these people are not actually experiencing it for themselves?
You see, bro, this is the issue that I'm talking about, guys. Like, bro, right now I haven't done the story or explored the map in Withering Wave since 2.6. So I haven't done the 2.7 story or side quest. I haven't done the 2.8 story or side quest or the new map where like Chiza and the cafe is at. I haven't explored any of that. I've barely done 3.0 story and side quest, and I've barely explored the area. I know that when I go back to the game, if I want pulls, guess what I have to do? I have to do the stories, do the side quests, do the maps, find the chest. Like, that's what I know I have to do to get the currency. It's the same in Genshin. If I were to go back to Genshin, I would go back in, explore the maps, do the stories, do the side quests, find the chest. It's the same mechanics in every single one of these games, right? Like I said, even I just started Arknights. I got my starter summons, I did my summons, and then I was like, okay, now what? So now I've kept pushing stages and getting achievements to get the currency. It's the same thing, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, basically is you play the game. So when someone tells you, like, if I were to start, right, let's say memory wipe, and I was like, hey, yo, Kuki, I want to start Arknights Enfield. Is it a game that's going to give me summons? And he tells me, yes, you can get 260 pulls in 1.0. In my head, as a normal, rational person, the answer to how I get those pulls is not something I even have to ask for. I already know. Do the story, do the side quest, explore the map, open the chest. Do the activities the game offers you. Do all of them to get all of those pulls. I already know that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I already know those things, bro. Other than that, I don't think it's a problem, bro. Like, if people can get that many pulls in 1.0, you don't even need that many pulls to reach pity for one character, bro. And not only that, each banner, how long does each banner last in Arknights Enfield? Like 20 days? Or am I tripping? Is it less than 20 days? I don't remember. But all I know is that in total is like over a month between the three banners. And that's just a 1.0 patch. So we had 17 days. Okay, so we had like, bro, we had over 45 days between the three banners in 1.0. Over 45 days to gather all of the 1.0 gems. It's not even like you had to do it all right away. And now, okay, if you wanted a specific character, like if you wanted Lavatane, you only need 120 out of the 260 that you would get in all of 1.0. So I don't see that as a problem. Could we maybe get more currency? Yes, more currency in gacha games is, who the hell is going to say no to more currency? We want more currency. Give us more summons. Hell yeah. Why not? Fuck. But at the same time, those people that were saying, shit, I have to play the game to get my currency, fuck. Like, what games do they play? Because every game does that.
You could say, well, sucks on them because they don't have the time to play the game, then it's their fault for not getting the pools. But you need to understand that when it comes to gamers, we are all still regular human beings that might go to work, that might go to school, and when it comes to the amount of time that we have to invest in Enfield, it might only mean 1 or 2 hours of our day. And that's not...
Okay, he just said 1 or 2 hours of our day, right? Reen recently did multiple challenges, and he said that in about 24 hours, give or take, so in one day, he got enough pulls to reach pity. If he were to put 2 hours a day into ARKNIGHTS ENFIELD, it would take him, I would say, like, let's just say 2 weeks. It would take him 2 weeks to get enough pulls to reach pity. And keep in mind that Reen did it in a day, so he didn't have the multiple login rewards for all those other days, the dailies, he didn't have the free tickets. So technically it would be about 10 days. It would be about 10 days, and in 10 days you have enough to reach pity. That means that players that started ARKNIGHTS ENFIELD the day that a game came out, 10 days later, playing 2 hours a day, like Kuki said, they would have guaranteed the character, even if they had to go to max pity. Sure, when we start a gacha game, we want the brand new banner character right away, but we're saying someone that only has 2 hours a day. Most gacha games in 2 hours, most of these type of gacha games won't guarantee you the banner character on the first, second day of you only playing 2 hours a day. You'll have to play a little bit more, push a little bit more content to get all those rewards and all that goodies. So even then, you would have still guaranteed Lavatane. I don't see the problem there. Once again, it would have been nice to get more summons, but it's also not as bad as people made it seem, when the reality is just play the game. And if you can't even play 2 hours a day, bro, shit, bro. If you can't even play, in all honesty, it's really not even 2 hours a day. You could probably do like 1 hour one day, another day 2 hours, one day 3 hours, another day 1, another day 2. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's really not that strict.
Really a very comfortable way to experience Enfield, right? A lot of you will say that you've sunk tons of hours in one go in order to play Enfield in this launch patch because it's just that fun. But for these people, it's so difficult for them to feel fun, and then especially with them feeling that, well, it's not their fault to feel that gacha is important. After all, Enfield is a gacha game. But when they have that in their mind, then they feel like, oh crap, I can't even get these things fast enough. I guess it's not a game for me. I feel that the problem Enfield has is a bit of a player psychology thing, which is because the pools are also like hidden in the background type of feeling.
Yeah, the pulls are backloaded. You start getting more the deeper you get into the game, yeah.
Like you don't know when you'll find 100 Ourobarrel chests, or you don't know when you'll find a random side quest that might spawn you 200 Ourobarrels, and you also don't know what surprise events might appear and how many pulls it gives, right? With them not being clear about all these things and you're always like mentally calculating what it could be, you just don't feel like the pulls come in as easily. Whereas compared to AK, where everything is so upfront, and you know that, hey, there's a weekly game mode that you need to play to get these pulls, you understand that, oh, actually this is a loop that I'm okay to experience, rather than to always be in this secrecy sort of state. So I feel that Enfield needs to work out something over here with regards to not backloading all these pools, because again, it's one, to respect people's time and respect the fact that there are just going to be people who want to play the game, but they just can't invest as much time as maybe the devs are hoping. And therefore, rather than to punish them, at least allow the pools to be more front-loaded. Experience a bit of a higher amount daily or weekly through logins, through a nice game mode, which, oh, please give me something better than Ash-based salvage, like 10 times better. But whatever it is, they need to...
I need to know what's 10 times better, bro. If they drop a game mode in Arknights Enfield that's 10 times better than Edge Space Salvage, I would love that shit. If they drop an endgame mode in Arknights Enfield that gives us good rewards, but plays like Tower of Adversity, and people praise that as the 10 times better mode than Edge Space Salvage, we're throwing hands, bro.
Work on that, because otherwise, like, it's very hard for us to like defend on the gacha system that Enfield has. We can say that the gacha system is all good, but if it feels bad, that's enough for you to say there's something wrong. Like, I agree, Enfield's gacha, I think is good, but I also feel it's shit.
Yeah, I said that earlier, bro. Enfield's gacha, I feel that it's good, but it's also shit. Sometimes good, sometimes maybe shit. Let's see if I can find that shit. Hold on, let's see if I can find that, bro. Like, that's literally how I feel this is, bro. Bro, this is Enfield's gacha, bro. This is literally Enfield's gacha right here.
Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit.
That is literally Enfield's gacha, bro. Sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit, bro. Straight up. So I'm gonna give y'all my take. On the first 120 summons of Arknights Enfield, I feel that the gacha system is generally pretty good. Generally pretty good, right? If we grab, and I've always given this example, if we grab like Genshin Impact, Wuthering Waves, and Arknights Enfield, and we tell someone, okay, you're gonna get the character when you get to Pity. Okay? That's it. You're gonna get the character when you get to Pity. Arknights Enfield is, in my opinion, those first 120, I feel that it's better. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. I just feel that it's better. Because the reality of it is that first off is 120, so it's less. 2, when you get to 30 summons, you get an extra temple. 3, when you get to 60 summons, you get a 10 pull for the next banner. So those little things are pretty good there. 4, if you actually get to 120 summons, let's say we're talking about having to go to Pity, you'll have a ton of weapon banner pulls. Maybe not enough to reach Pity on the weapon banner, but enough to do shit, at least 6, 7, 10 pulls on the weapon banner, right? Usually, without having to put more money into it. Right? So on that regard, I think it's better. Let me give y'all an example. Someone said I had to reach 120 on both Lavatane and Tang Tang banners and lost to 50-50 4 times. So this player, for example, they went to Pity. They went to 120 Pity. In those 120 summons, they got 5 6-star characters. They lost to 50-50 4 times, and then they got the featured character on their 5th 6-star. That's 5 limited characters when he gets to Pity. If you had to hit Pity in a game like Wuthering Waves or Genshin Impact, you would have gotten 1 off-banner character and the featured character. You would have gotten 2 characters. He got 5 in Arknights Enfield. Obviously, it would feel better to have a 50-50. You lose to 50-50, the next one is guaranteed. That would be better. But that is why sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. It has some really good aspects to it, but it also has some kind of shit aspects of it. You know what I'm saying? It has some pretty good aspects, and it has some pretty shit aspects as well. That's the thing that I've always said about Arknights Enfield, that it has, you shouldn't, personally, at least for me, I prefer it to just be straightforward with me, where it's like, I'm either gonna be really, really good, or I'm gonna get shafted, rather than not know, and it's sometimes maybe good, sometimes maybe shit. But the reality of it is that the fact that you can get 4, 5, 6 stars in one pity run in comparison to another game where you're guaranteed to only get 1 or 2 characters. I prefer that in Arknights Enfield. And along the way, you have the free 10 pool that you get for doing 30 summons, and a free temple for your upcoming banner within that same 120 stretch. So personally, I think that's pretty good.
What a weird problem it has. I'm gonna further elaborate on the part where it feels crap, but when it comes to the gacha side of things, I also see a lot of AK players bringing in the fact that they wish that Enfield has recruitment because it's like a free and a nice interactive way for you to get more units. I think players need to understand that it's just not feasible for Enfield to have recruitment because Enfield only has 23 characters at launch. AK started with like 150.
I don't know what recruitment is, but I'm guessing that's another Arknights thing.
I think characters at launch. So it makes so much more sense that AK needs this unique recruitment system so that people can gather more of the character pool. Whereas Enfield, recruitment for what? Like for a 6-star to appear? I guess they can, but then the 4 stars and 5 stars are so unentertaining in the game. So it's not feasible to do recruitment. Could they invent something similar? Maybe. To me, standard recruitment banners being the one.
Okay, so Mako, let me ask you a question. You said you prefer the character that you want rather than 105 stars myself. It's a personal thing. Okay, so let me ask you a question, right? You play Wuthering Waves or Genshin Impact, and you play Arknights Enfield. You have to go to pity. Let's just say that day the destiny is pointed in a direction that tells you you have to go to pity. So you are going to have to go to pity, right? Which banner system would you rather have to go to pity on? Wuthering Waves or Arknights Enfield? Anybody in the chat can answer that question as well. And when I say pity, I mean guaranteed pity. Guaranteed pity, guys. Pretty easy if you ask me. Pretty damn easy if you ask me. Arknights Enfield, not gonna lie. Arknights Enfield. I want to hear the take from people that actually, if anybody has a different take. Another Arknights Enfield. I want to hear it from someone that says anything different. I would say Arknights Enfield, but you have to think about people that won't be able to get to pity. I'm going to be honest. Another Arknights Enfield. Arknights Enfield. Another Arknights Enfield. Okay, so. When you say you got to think about those people that got to get to pity, right? That are not going to be able to get to pity. People got to stop summoning on people got to stop making mistakes due to their lack of control or lack of planning, or simply because they got a premature nut and they can't stand seeing every single new shiny character in a gacha game, even if they don't synergize with their roster, they don't have teams built for it, they haven't even prepared for it, so they want to click that little sparkly summon button to try to get it, and then blame all those mistakes on the devs side of things, bro. I'm gonna be real. If you're playing a gacha game, you should plan your pulls in every single one of them. It don't matter if it's Arknights Enfield or Wuthering Waves. You shouldn't be summoning on every single character just because it's a new shiny toy. You should be summoning on characters that you like, that are synergistic to your account, that you have teams that you're planning to use with, that are going to improve your account. You shouldn't be just throwing temples every single time at every single banner and then being like, damn, this game is kind of fucked up with the way they do their summon system. You know what I'm saying? So, once again, not defending the Arknights Enfield gacha system, like I said, sometimes may be good, sometimes may be shit. But when you look at the Arknights Enfield system, I personally think that the first 120 pulls, bro, I had to go to 120 on Yvonne, and I had to go to like 80 something on Tang Tang. From the moment that I sat there summoning for Tang Tang, I was already mentally prepared to go to pity. Had I not had enough pulls to go to pity, I probably wouldn't have summoned. I would have stopped. I would have said, you know what? I'm not even going to get the soft pity at 80. I'm going to leave it alone until I can guarantee that I have enough to hit that 120 pity. And I'm the same way in games like Wuthering Waves and Genshin Impact. I'm just smart with the way that I do my stuff, bro. Don't tell me how to not control my gambling addictions. My fault. Gee, I apologize. But you know what I mean? Like, now, one thing that I will say is, after you reach the original pity of 120 in ARKNIGHTS ENFIELD, bro, and you get your character, if you want to get dupes or whatever, it feels like shit, bro. I don't know what it is. It just feels like dog ass after that initial thing, right? If you get the character and then you want to get dupes on it, it just feels like ass, bro. That I will say that feels like ass.
5-6 stars right now in the game is kind of a replacement to Recruitment, except that they do need to make it feel like it's a fun thing to do by giving more standard pools rather than to never give it anymore. Okay, after that interjection of just talking about Recruitment as a suggestion, let's talk about the gacha system, because I think you are familiar with the gacha system by now, okay? I don't have to rehash to you about the, no 50-50 carry over, 120 guarantee and all that kind of thing, and it's always hotly debated as to like whether this is a better gacha system than the other games. We don't have to get through all of that anymore. But I'll just simply tell you that this gacha system, I have one major critical problem. And
my major critical problem, if we're going to just say one, he's going to say his one, I'm going to say my one first. My main problem with, not my main, but just one, if I just throw one, the fact that pity doesn't fully transfer over. I feel that the entirety of the pity should transfer over. If the max pity is 120 pulls and I do 115 pulls and I don't get the character and the banner goes away, the next fucking banner I should only need to do 5 pulls and I get the guaranteed character, period. Like that's it. That's just how it should be. I don't know why overcomplicate that one aspect of the gacha. It's fucked up. It's stupid. It leads to FOMO. It leads to people like not understanding things a little bit too much. Simple, right? You get to 80, you get an off banner, you get a standard banner character. At that point, you have 60 more pulls that you gotta do to get a guaranteed. It don't matter if it's on that banner or the next banner. You do 60 more pulls, you get a guaranteed character. Simple. That's the one thing that annoys the hell out of me. And there's other things that, you know what? I'm gonna say all the things that I don't like, bro. I'm gonna say the other things that I don't like. I don't like the fact that the fucking tickets for the limited banner characters that they give us are time gated. Why the hell are they time gated, bro? I think that, bro, make them yellow tickets and that's it. Make them yellow tickets. Why do you time gate these tickets? Why do you time gate the goddamn motherfucking tickets? That shit is so stupid. I hate that. See, bro, this is the thing that I will tell y'all. I love ARKNIGHTS ENFIELD, but I'm never shy when it comes to talking shit about things that need to be talked about in a way that actually seems logical. I'm not going to say, worst game of all time, worst developers of all time. I'm not going to say that, but Jesus Christ, I hate dumb tickets. And obviously, I get it. The devs do it for the FOMO because they want us to spend money or whatever. But don't be assholes, devs. Don't do that. Make it so we get yellow tickets, the ones that we can use on any banner, and we can save them over time for when a character we do like comes out, we can use them. The whole limited tickets is ass cheeks, bro. I don't know why they do that. That is annoying, bro. That's just my take on that particular thing. Maybe it's a carryover from ARKNIGHTS. Okay, cool. I think they should change that. Absolutely. And there's probably some other things, but I want to let him talk and say what he's going to say that he doesn't like. I gave y'all 2 things that I really don't like regarding the gacha system.
I just feel, Hypergriff, please listen to what I'm about to say. The characters that they release, where they appear on a certain banner, and later on when they don't appear on the banner anymore, they appear for 2 more banners. That's what they've done in this game, right? And subsequently, after those 2 banners, they don't appear anymore. It's a bit different from the other gacha games, yes, where in the likes of Genshin Impact and Wuthering Waves, when you have a character banner, you can only pull it during that time. After the character banner has ended, you will never see them again until they rerun. This part where you can get the characters in other banners is so culture shocky to the global community, I would say. Like, if you are surfing Twitter, Reddit, and whatnot, you will see that in the first banner, second banner, or any in particular, people were posting Twitter pictures about the fact that, wait, you can get Yvonne and Gilberta during Levitine? You can get Yvonne during Gilberta? That's so exciting! Look at me getting my off-rate characters. People are discovering the fact that they don't just need to get the standard characters that the game offer, and instead, even the more limited feeling of the characters can appear in later on banners. And that's like something that is so good. It's why we like Arknights. The fact that
I like that. I think that's good, bro. I think that's hold on, guys. We'll wait and see where he's going, but am I the only one that thinks that's really good? Like, if I'm being honest with you, I think that's probably one of the best things that they have in terms of the gacha system, right? Like, for example, like if I go to the gacha system right now, right? If I go to the gacha system right now, the fact that I can still get Yvonne and Gilberta from there is pretty good, right? Because if they keep doing this, they don't have new characters. They won't have Rosie in here, right? For example. But the fact that we can get these two previous characters, I think that's so much better than if we only, always, eternally had these characters, right? Because me personally, let's say that I've been playing the game for 4 months, 5 months. I already have several copies of the standard banner characters, right? If I'm going to be summoning on this banner and let's say I skipped these two banners, I would personally prefer to get one of these characters over another dupe of another standard banner character that I'm sure from here to 4 or 5 months would have gotten power crept anyway. So I think that's actually a pretty damn good thing, but let's see where he's going.
if you skip a banner, later on, if that unit that you skip surprises you, it's a good feeling to have. Enfield could have made that AK feeling come back, but decided, no, we're only just going to do it for 3 banners and never again. Like, why? Back, but decided, no. Enfield could have made that AK feeling a good feeling to have. And later on, if that unit that you skip surprises you, it's a good feeling to have. Enfield could have made that AK feeling come back, but decided, no, we're only just going to do it for 3 banners and never again. Like, why?
Wait, I'm confused. What is he saying here? I'm confused. I need to rewatch that. Hold on.
That's so exciting! Look at me getting my off-rate characters. People are discovering the fact that they don't just need to get the standard characters that the game offer, and instead, even the more limited feeling of the characters can appear in later on banners. And that's like something that is so good. It's why we like Arknights. The fact that if you skip a banner, later on, if that unit that you skip surprises you, it's a good feeling to have. Enfield could have made that AK feeling come back, but decided, no, we're only just going to do it for 3 banners and never again. Like, what?
Okay, so from what you guys are saying is that in Arknights, everyone goes to the general pool. So after a banner comes out in Arknights, everybody go, and let's say a new character comes out, the last one goes to the standard banner, right? That's what you guys are saying that he's talking about? Yes. He's complaining that limited characters don't go to the standard pool. Okay, I'm going to just give y'all an example. The format in this game, once again, the format in this game is very different to Arknights, first off. On top of that, in Arknights, he said that the game started with like 100 or 150 characters. I don't know, a shitload of characters, right? In this game, we started, right, with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and at the time, 6, 7, 8. We started with 8 technical limited banner characters, but we already had these. It's a lot different. I'm guessing he's talking about banner characters. Like we're not gonna talk about 4 stars and all that shit. I'm guessing he's talking about like limited banner characters going into the standard pool. And here we only had a handful of characters, right? If they added the characters to the standard banner right away, Yeah, these 5 are not limited, but y'all get what I'm saying, like 5-star characters, right? Or 6 stars. It would have been really hard for them to make money on, like, reruns would have never been existent, and in a game like this, it's not as realistic to release that many characters or have that many characters, right? I'm not saying that we shouldn't get these characters added to the standard banner. We should. I've always agreed to adding the characters to standard banners, maybe down the line. I've said this in games like Tower of Fantasy when I played it, and other games like that. But maybe like a couple of months, maybe a few months down the line, bro. Right? Maybe a few months down the line. But not right away. Personally. Once again, what's one thing that you could say that ZZN, because you said ZZN adds everyone to standard and they are doing decent. What's one thing that you can say ZZN and Arknights, regular Arknights have in common? I'll tell you, they're both strategy type games, right? You strategize what you're doing. It's not an action combat type game. You know what I'm saying? So that's where you can actually be viable in doing that, right? That's one of those things that is viable to do. No, he is talking about the limited off-banner characters. He is saying that it only happens in 1.0 and will not continue in 1.1. Okay, well, if he was saying that, then maybe he just didn't know how it was going to be. Because in 1.1, we got the same thing that we have right now, that we had before, which is right here. And we had this, right? We had this. So if he was talking about this, I think this is great. We've already addressed that, right? If that's what he meant, then he wasn't informed at the time of making that video regarding this particular topic, which cool. Now we know that we are going to continue to get the last 2 characters that were in rotation. So by the time we get Rosie, right, the characters in rotation would be, the off-banner limited characters that we can get would be Gilberta and Tang Tang. Right, those would be the 2 characters that we can get on Rosie's banner, which is pretty cool. Now, if he meant getting added to standard banner, we also covered that already. So I'm pretty good that we've covered both of those angles just in case. Okay?
I do think it's quite harsh for me to say that Hyperglyph lost the plot a little bit, but I also feel that I need to give them a bit of a benefit of the doubt kind of idea that I think they're just not very sure how.
Oh yeah, Yvonne and Tang Tang. My fault is Yvonne and Tang Tang. Gilberta was before Yvonne. My fault. Bro, that's actually good. Because if you're summoning for Rosie, you have the chance of getting the last 2 characters that are literally partners in the team. So that's pretty damn good. That's actually pretty damn good.
They want to monetize the game. They tested and whatnot, but now that the game is launched, only here can they understand what are the player dynamics sort of thing. But I do feel that if Hyperglyph respects their AK player base, they should probably try to understand why we personally decide to pay for the game in the first place. And honestly speaking, a lot of us that we pay for the game, 1, we pay for it because the gacha system is good. 2, we pay for it because the gameplay is good. Enfield right now, with the gacha system more so feeling like it's using FOMO tactics in order to make you feel the need to pull, it's not very enjoyable to be in the position of like, oh, should I surrender my wallet or not? Whereas,
okay, I also want to say this, and guys, correct me if I'm wrong, right? This is something that I want to bring up. Keep in mind, this is a 1.0 review. This is a 1.0 review. Fear of missing out, right? We've been able to get Yvonne now for Lavatane's banner, Gilberta's banner, Tang Tang's banner, and she's going to be in Rosie's banner. As maybe if you lose that 50-50. There's been people that have gotten her while trying to summon for like Tang Tang or Gilberta, right? Tang Tang is now the character, for example, right? Tang Tang is the character you can get right now. You can get her on her banner. You're going to be able to get her on Rosie's banner. And you're going to be able to get her on the banner after Rosie's banner. Not saying that you should summon for those characters in these banners. That's not what I'm trying to say. But at least on the FOMO side of things, it's a lot less than a character from these other major gachas when it comes to the fear of missing out, because let's say you don't summon on their banner, you gotta wait for a rerun. Shit, even Arknights, right? I don't know if in Arknights you get to select the 6-star you want when you summon, but even if you don't get the character during their banner and they get added to the standard banner, are you really summoning on the standard banner with limited currency to try to snipe that one character you missed? Probably not. So you're still going to have fear of missing out, but at least in this game, I feel like there is like at least like an extra option. Every time a new banner comes out, in case you miss the character, you're like, shit, I might try to summon. I can get the new character, or maybe I'll lose the 50-50 and I'll get the character I missed out on. So at least it's kind of there. You know what I mean?
In the case of AK, it never feels like you're forced in a sense. You kind of just pay when you want to pay for it. So I do feel that that only comes about if they do not make every single character in the game true limiteds. Again, this would be fantastic. It really sets them apart from the other gacha games. And they could do it at a certain point in time later on. Like if a character is released for 1 year, for 6 months, whatever that is, then they actually do get added into the off-rate pool. Re-emphasizing on how it's...
Hold on. I don't think anyone should try to get Yvonne outside of her banner, though. It's a bonus if great, that's it. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, you don't get to select it. It's a large pool of large 15, 20 plus characters. People only summon on limited banners and get loads of new characters every single time. Yeah, basically the same way that we should do it in here. Since it's 4 limiteds per year, you get to save a ton, and the game still makes 30 million revenue. It works out great. True. The game does make a lot of money, but once again, we got to look at the type of game that it is compared to a game like this, right? 3D models and all of that take a lot more work, bro. And also, how many characters do you normally use on a team in Arknights? I don't know. 6? I don't know. 6, 8? In these games, it's usually 3 or 4. So those few characters hold usually a lot more value. They're harder to make for the developers and all that good stuff than, you know, chibi or 2D models that you usually have in these other types of game. 12? Like 8 or 10, but you need a larger roster. 12? Okay. Yeah, well, maybe that's why they make it a lot easier to get more characters, because you need fucking 12. Because you need 12? Holy shit.
sets
Okay.
Enfield apart. A problem that occurs in those other games is that when you get off-rate characters, when you lose your 50-50, like for example in HSR, the characters that you can receive are only restricted to the 5, like there's Welt, Himeko, and all those other characters. So at this point in time, for Genshin players, they're already on like C30 or C40 TT, and that's gonna piss the crap out of them, because it's never interesting to get an off rate and to just see it be the same face all the time. Like, people like to pride those other games that there is the 50-50 carry over. But then I also feel like those same people don't describe the fact that losing a 50-50 has literally zero thrill or happiness. But that's something that you can get in the form of AK. And Enfield is doing the halfway point. Why not just go all in? And that way, you can really help people to feel like, damn, gacha in this game, there's the 120 stuff and all that sort of things, but off-rate pooling actually feels pretty nice as well.
I'm gonna be honest, I think off-rate pulling actually feels good in this game, and don't get me wrong, like, my off-rate pulls have been dog-ass, like, they've been straight ass cheeks. My off-rate pulling has been fucking atrocious, but with that said, I also don't think it's bad, because I know in my mind that I have the chance of pulling the last 2 featured characters, and that's pretty damn cool. Like, if I skip Rosie, for example, which I think I'm gonna skip Rosie, but then, you know, let's say Mifu comes out after Rosie and I'm trying to summon for her and I lose my 50-50, I would much rather get Rosie over, like, another Ardalia or a fucking Li Fang. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. And if I got Rosie, I'd be like, fuck yeah, that's lit. Maybe I don't have her team, or I don't have her ready to be built right now. I wasn't even planning on building her. But shit, maybe down the line, I could build a new limited character that I never build, whereas if I get like a motherfucking Li Feng again, or if I get an Ardalia, fuck, I don't want them, you know? So I think it does, pulling an off banner has a chance to be like a cool experience. Like, oh shit, I got Yvonne in Tang's banner when I lost my 50-50. Maybe it's not what I wanted. I would have still preferred the limited banner character that I was going for, but getting a previous limited banner character over a regular standard banner character is kind of cool in my opinion.
This is definitely not going to be an instant solution. I think it's just a matter of time. Maybe add it 1 year later and surprise all of us. Tell us that, hey, Levity is rerunning by the way, but from now on, Levity is in the off-rate pool, or Levity goes into the basic hit hunting pool as well. The banners in Arknights are so much more interesting than what Enfield is offering, and of course, I think this is an unfair comparison. Arknights has ran for 6 years, Enfield only just started. But there's a lot of banners that we enjoy in AK. Those that gives only guaranteed 6 stars. Like currently in Arknights, we have Orange Earring banner. Choose 3 6 stars. They're the only ones that you can get if you obtain a 6 star. There is Joint Operation. There are only 4 that you can confirm get.
Bro, once again, bro, I swear, like, I feel like the comparisons, once again, it's like, it doesn't make sense. Like when I look at this banner, I think I have this banner where you can select the characters or whatever. It's like, well, this banner wouldn't work in fucking Arknights in 1.0 because we had like 6 units. So it would be like all standard banners and like a limited or something. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's too early. Maybe a banner like this could come out in like 3 months or something. You know what I mean? Like, this could be something down the line, but as a review of 1.0, a banner like this really doesn't make sense.
6 star.
Personally.
There is Joint Operation. There are only 4 that you can confirm get. There is also New Year banner where the operators that you don't own, they're the only ones that appears in your 6-star banner.
Cool. Something like this could drop in New Year, right? Who knows? That would be kind of cool.
Cool. A lot of different stuff that occurs in AK that are actually enjoyable as a pooling experience. Will Enfield be able to emulate that is something I'm gonna have to observe patch by patch. I have one more challenge to give to Enfield as well. Okay. In Arknights, you can use your yellow certificates to buy 6 stars. In Enfield, you can only use it to buy 5 stars, but eventually you're gonna get all the 5 stars. Again, Beta Test 1 lets you buy the 6 stars directly.
Right then and there. Facts. That should be a thing. And I'll be kind of pissed if they add that now because I've done used a bunch of fucking tickets on bullshit. So, I don't know why this wasn't a thing for standard banner characters. This should have been a thing. Like always, these are things that you kind of call out the developers out for doing because this is definitely one of those predatory things, right? Like, this being taken out is the developers whipping out their meat and saying, give us your money. Like, they shouldn't have taken this out. This should be in the game, absolutely. Like, what the fuck? Simple as that.
Beta Test 2 and launch, no longer to be seen. So, Enfield, can you somehow let us buy 6 stars in the future with yellow certs?
Yeah, can y'all do that, Enfield? The fuck?
Would be absolutely amazing. Well, it's not called yellow certs, it's got one quota in this game. Whatsoever it is, summarizing on the matters of gacha. 1, make the pool economy feel nicer. It should have more front loading. It shouldn't feel like it's a pain, it's a stressful thing to do. 2,
I think those were in the beta test so people could get all the units they wanted for testing, but maybe I'm wrong. I wouldn't mind it in the game though. But I understand, right? Maybe they were in the beta test so people could get them for testing, but at the same time, does it not make sense to actually give us that option? Like he said, if we're gonna be summoning, we're eventually gonna get all the 5-star characters. Bro, I haven't even whaled heavy in the game. I've only put a few bucks into the game, and I still have a lot of the summons that I put the money into the game for, and I kid you not, I think I already have all the 5-star characters maxed out. I'm pretty sure I do. So now I just buy yellow tickets, which is fine, but it would be good if we could save for a 6-star character that we like.
gacha system, make it feel better. Like I said, in theory or on paper, it might currently feel that it's okay, but the feelings that players are constantly putting up, Hypergraph needs to figure out how to deal with this. I'm already proposing the fact that just give me my off-rate units. That will make me and all your AK players so happy that it's the exact same thing happening. The 3 areas that I touched on in this video, once again, difficulty, replayability, and the gacha, I think are super important. They are time urgent for Hypergraph to fix because the longer they take to not fix it, the more I'm inclined to join the crew of people that says that this game is just another Genshin or Wuthering Waves. Again, I don't think it is, but it comes down to the content cycle and the type of content they produce. The longer they take to not do it, the more I'm just gonna be like, I don't know why I'm liking this game in the first place.
I'm gonna be honest though, I'm gonna be real with what he just said. And listen to what I'm about to say. I'll play what he said again, and then I'll say what I have to say.
Not fix it, the more I'm inclined to join the crew of people that says that this game is just another Genshin or Wuthering Waves. Again,
ARKNIGHTS Enfield has a lot of things that makes it different from Genshin Impact or Wuthering Waves. But it is just another Genshin Impact or Wuthering Waves. I hope you guys understand what I just said. ARKNIGHTS Enfield has things that separate it in its entirety from games like Wuthering Waves or Genshin Impact. The factory system, the platforming, the no wall climbing, none of that. But it is just another Genshin Impact or Wuthering Waves. That's just the truth of the matter. That's why this whole review, I've been so, like, against the direct comparisons to a game like ARKNIGHTS, despite it still being like its sister game from the same company, some of the same characters pretty much. Comparing it to ARKNIGHTS in a lot of aspects is very different because it's a game that plays differently. The whole mechanics of the game, the reason the gachas work a certain way, the reason the banners work a certain way, the reason all those things work a certain way is because of the whole concept behind ARKNIGHTS. I feel that ARKNIGHTS Enfield is more of a game that you would compare to like Wuthering Waves and Genshin Impact because, well, it simply is just another one of those games. That's just the truth.
I don't think it is, but it comes down to the content cycle and the type of content they produce. The longer they take to not do it, the more I'm just gonna be like, I don't know why I'm liking this game in the first place. This game is definitely a humongous amount of potential. It's crazy, we call it a potential game, but like, when would that potential be realized is what we are all waiting to see.
You know what's crazy? We call a lot of these games potential games. I remember looking at Wuthering Waves like months and months ago, right? Maybe even before 2.0, and we would talk about, yo, imagine like dungeons in this game with this combat, fighting some crazy bosses in a dungeon, exploring a dungeon. That'll be kind of freaking cool. Same thing with like Genshin Impact. Recently, I got into Duet Night Abyss, and the same thing with Duet Night Abyss. Free characters, free weapons, free gear. You get everything for free, but then there ain't shit to do in the game apart from standing there menacingly farming. Imagine dungeons. The potential of it is so great. That's just the reality with gacha gaming. Brother, whether it's this game, that game, the upcoming games, they're always going to be a glass half full. You're never really going to be satisfied because that is the model that the games are, bro. They're meant to make players addicted to the crack that is the game, so you keep scratching your neck and coming back for more, but never feeling satisfied. That's just the truth, bro.
I don't know what sort of patience I have to finally be excited and see that, yes, Hypergrave has finally released a jaw-dropping game mode. They've done something amazing to the gacha system. 6 months? A year?
DNA isn't a gacha either. DNA is absolutely a gacha game. DNA has gacha banners for cosmetics, which is a gacha. The currency you get in the game you use on the gacha, right? All the cosmetics they're currently adding are gacha. The big fancy cosmetics are gacha. You know what I'm saying? The weekly mode is a gacha. The gear upgrade system works like a gacha. You play Duet Night Abyss. I have about 1,300 hours in Duet Night Abyss. If I told you that when I play Duet Night Abyss, it doesn't feel like a gacha game, I'm fucking lying to you. And anybody that says otherwise is lying to you, bro. If DNA is a gacha, League of Legends is a gacha. Now, I don't know how cosmetics work in League of Legends nowadays. I don't know if League of Legends cosmetics are via gacha banners, where like You summon and you have a chance to lose your 50-50 and get fucking dog ass or something, or like not get what you want from the banner, right? I don't know if that's the way the cosmetics work in League of Legends. I thought back when I played League of Legends, right? Back when I played League of Legends, I paid for skins. So I don't know, maybe nowadays all the skins that they add now are only gacha skins. That could be a thing, right? And if so, yes, that aspect of it is a gacha game aspect, absolutely. Right? But the rest of it is not a gacha game. Just like Duet Not Abyss. And then on top of that, you would say the cosmetic skin for League of Legends is the gacha aspect in League of Legends. That's it. You're not going to tell me that they have all the other aspects like weekly materials to level up your characters being gated behind weekly missions that you only have a certain amount every single week. Resettable weekly events to get the currency that you can only get from that event. So forth and so on, that are literally the mechanics of gacha gaming. Like, I don't know if League of Legends has all of that shit now. I have no idea.
Yeah, time will tell, I would say. My shirt is a pretty good final message to this, you know. It says that, well, Kelsit says she's here for a good time, but not a long time. But I gotta be honest, ARKNIGHTS was both a good time and a long time that I've been spending. Enfield can do the same. Come on, give me both a good time and a long time in Enfield. That's all I can ask for, Hypergriff. That's all I'll say to my review for patch 1.0. I might do a review every single patch, and, well, I'm not very hopeful that the next patch I will say better things, but who knows, surprise me, I would say. And I'm looking more forward to patch 1.2 than I am to 1.1 anyways. I'll see you guys in all the sorts of other Enfield videos. This is the one time I get to rant to my heart's content, and I hope...
Damn, he ranted for 30 minutes and I ranted for 2 hours, guys. We be yapping up in here. I don't even know how this video is going to get uploaded. That's just going to get 3 views, but it don't matter, guys. We're always down to talk and yap it up regarding all these different things. Overall, I thought it was a good video. There was a lot of good points, a lot of points that I didn't agree with. And overall, my takeaway from this is I can tell that Kuki is someone that absolutely wants ARKNIGHTS Enfield to be better. He wants the game to improve. He wants the game to improve for the player base. He wants the game to improve for the devs. He wants the game to be better in general. I absolutely agree with him, and I respect him for the way that he presents what he likes, what he doesn't like, and his ideas as to how the game could be improved. I think this is how you do a review, where you speak your mind and you propose things that could be improved about the game. Absolutely agree with him. I think he's great for doing that. And even though I disagree with some of the ways that he presented his points, like comparing it so much to ARKNIGHTS rather than maybe games of its same genre and typing, maybe, I still think it was all done from the point of view of someone that cares about the game, wants the game to be better, and I think he did a great job with that. Shout out to Kuzikage. I'll be sure to drop the link to his video in the description of my video. If you did enjoy this, do be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, turn on bell notifications, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.